Okay, so before I launch into a discussion of communism and socialism, I would like to spend a little bit more time on capitalism to talk about taxation. So we talked about regulation. You have to have regulation, or you can't really have healthy free markets. You also are going to have taxation because there always has to be a government to do that regulation, and they have to have money to do that, and to do other things, national defense, all the basic stuff. So, no serious person believes that there should be no taxation. There has to be taxation. But we have to also recognize what the effect of taxation is. So there are basically four ways of taxing. Maybe there's more, but mainly four ways of taxing. One, you tax income, like regular salary income. Two, you could tax proceeds from investments. Three, you can tax transactions, like the sales tax. And four, you can tax inheritance. So when someone dies or passes their property from one person to another, you can tax that. So let's take those one at a time. Let's start with income, regular income. So there are a few ways that people become capitalists. We talked last time about they have to have obtained a certain amount of wealth. And one way that people obtain wealth is by earning income. So if we tax income, and particularly if we tax income more aggressively the more there is, which is what our current progressive tax code does, what you do is you basically slow down the accumulation of the wealth that can be used for investment. So the mathematical effect is, if I was going to earn $10 million over 10 years, but 20% of that is taken out in taxes, then at the end of the 10 years, I only have $8 million. And then once you subtract all my other expenses and things I like to do, I'm going to have some smaller amount of money to invest than I would have had. So the effect of income tax is to lower the amount of capital that's available to invest. The second type I could talk about is taxing the proceeds from investments. So obviously there's a direct impact on investment when you tell someone, if you invest this money and then you get X amount in addition to it back after you sell it, then we're going to take X% of that amount. So you have reduced the return on the investment by whatever percentage you're going to take. So obviously that reduces the incentive to invest the money. So perhaps some people who could have invested it would instead turn it more to consumption. So that's a second effect of taxation that reduces investment. It doesn't eliminate it, it just reduces the amount you're going to get. The third form I think I mentioned was taxing transactions. So now you're taxing basically when someone buys or sells things, you're basically adding a cost to that. So back to the supply and demand curve and finding the right balance of cost and profit and so forth. The taxation, we usually think of sales tax as being added on after the fact. But because people pay the sales tax at the same time that they pay the price for most items, it's factored into their thinking as far as what they're willing to pay. Therefore, effectively, you're adding a cost to the bottom line of the item that's being sold, which again means that reduces the profit margin or eliminates it if you're too close in terms of the value of the product to the person who wants to buy it. So the effect of the sales tax or tax on transactions is to increase the cost of everything that is produced. and that makes it more likely that certain things won't be produced, or that they won't be produced sufficiently. And the final one is the inheritance tax. That basically says that some amount of wealth has already been accumulated, and if you're already taxed on it the way we are in the United States, then that wealth was accumulated and already taxed when it was earned by the income tax. Now, if that person is going to pass it to someone else, which would be, so you would have a certain pool that would be available for investment after that money was passed on, then obviously if the government's going to take a cut, then that again has the effect of reducing the pool of investment that's available to invest. So those forms of taxation, all four of them, have the effect of decreasing the value of investments, because you either are less likely to get your money back because you can't sell it because it's an additional cost to your production, or it's going to decrease the available resources or decrease the incentive to actually invest. So we have to keep that in mind. We do need taxation. No one's going to argue that we don't need taxation, but we should be very careful and only tax when we absolutely need to in order to keep the society functioning.